Hello, I'm Pauline Jennings. Welcome to Musician Talk. Today we're catching up with Cedric Briand, the mastermind behind Greenvale Manitou, a group that creates imaginative, cutting-edge, mixed-genre, thoughtful music right here in Northfield. He was last on episode number 55 in April of 2022, and I asked him back today because on Thursday he has an EP release gig at the Grand. Yes, he's been busy making more incredible music, and that is our focus of today's discussion. By the way, if you'd like to hear about his musical journey, just go to greenvalemanitou.com and hit the press button, and our last interview is right there. But now, today, it's time to find out the details of some of his recent music and catch up with Cedric Briand. Hi, Ced, and welcome to Musician Talk.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you this morning?
Very good.
I have to apologize for the pronunciation of your first name. I tried to be fancy with the last name, and I kind of nailed that, but it's Cedric, as Wendy said, so we're just going to go with Ced.
Sure,
and that works
for me.
Yes, and everybody out there, this is our new time, Musician Talk's new time for the summer, 8:30. So tune in every Sunday at 8:30, and here I will be. And today I'm so excited to have Ced on the show because this guy is a font of knowledge when it comes to music making and music recording. But first, Ced, let's catch up. So you're on in April of 2022. What's been going on since then?
Well, we've been busy recording two other songs, which we are going to listen today, if my memory is correct, right?
Yes.
Good,
yes.
Very good. So we've been deciding to make an EP of the three songs and to make this official, to put the three singles on the same CD. It's kind of an adventure for me. So it's the first time I'm making shirts and I'm making CDs and all that. So this is the next stage in the whole process. Ginty has been busy with Chad Johnson, so I think after the project he's going to be a bit more working with him and going this direction. And I've had to find new ideas for the next project. The gig at the Grand is going to introduce those musicians too.
Nice.
So I'm going to play the songs for the EP release for sure. Ginty is going to be here, is going to fool around on a couple of other songs too.
Nice.
We've been working on a couple of cool stuff like this, and then it's going to be. I thought it was going to be a good opportunity to kind of introduce also the new crowd and the new sound that's going to be there. So it's going to be a mix of genres and mix of songs for sure.
Nice. And that's Thursday at the Grand. At what time does it start?
It is, I believe, 7 to 10.
All right. And we will remind you more of that and find out more about that gig coming up. But first, I want to talk to you a little bit about songwriting. And we when Ginty was on, we talked about that too. But I just want to this time talk more about the thoughtfulness that you put into your recording and when you record. And now, the way you do your recordings isn't like a lot of groups, which has the band and they go in the studio with their whole band and they have the bass player and they have a synthesized player and all the different elements are usually a different person. Sometimes you'll overdub and do a second part, but for these songs, it's just you and Ginty in the studio creating these songs. So could you take me through some of your process in songwriting and building a song?
It kind of depends on the song. So, for instance, with Skies and Grain, the first song we're going to listen today, it really started Ginty and I just jamming, in the studio. We're trying to find riffs. We wanted to have some sort of a rock and hard rock metal kind of song. So we kind of fooled around his riffs, and I sat behind an electronic drum set. I was trying to fool around with some of the sounds too, from that drum set. And it really started there. At some point we got something and we clicked on one riff and we decided to build from there. So a lot of songs, you can build this way. You just have one good riff and then you build around that riff and you make a song. Queen of All the Animals, the other song, is a very much different approach. What I did is I wanted to try to write a song based on a picture. And that's the picture of my daughter that you've seen here. That was kind of a challenge for singer-songwriters that I've read about. Like, if you don't know kind of what the approach should be, sometimes it's good to take a picture and just to try to write a lyrical content based on the picture. So that song started this way. So it started with the content, and then we knew with Ginty that we wanted something that was less rock. We wanted to try something that was from the lo-fi world, a bit more hip, a bit more groovy, and the rest was pretty easy. But we started with a depiction of the picture and what it really meant.
Of your daughter there,
Yes.
with all her animals, her stuffed animals.
The picture is cute. It's a picture of her in the bedroom. I mean, we can talk more about the picture when we talk about the song,
Absolutely.
but it's a great picture.
So when you say lo-fi, what do you mean?
Kind of minimalistic approach of very nonchalant, I would say, beats. So imagine like a very strong, very powerful hip hop beat, but tune this down to something that's a bit more mellow. It's something that is very popular in the student world, for instance, when they do their homework or when they want to study and have some music in the back that's not too aggressive.
Got it.
That is lo-fi. And it's also, lo-fi versus hi-fi. Hi-fi is splendidly achieved. It's full of quality. Lo-fi is a bit more rugged. It's a bit more raw. A lot of the lo-fi world, for instance, keeps the hiss of a cassette or the crackling of a vinyl. This is kind of the ambience here. So it creates this sort of cool, minimalistic approach to doing things, which gives a lot of space for the rest.
And it kind of feels more old-fashioned, although it's not, because people doing very modern songs are using the lo-fi thing, a lo-fi angle, I guess, to their music.
Uh-huh.
And I guess you might think analog with that hiss sound, the thought of analog versus digital sound. All right, so you talked about Skies and Grain a little bit, and I want to delve into that very deeply here. And Ced created a series of wonderful documentaries on the making of this song, and I highly encourage all of you to go to YouTube and look up Skies and Grain or Greenvale Manitou, and I think you can get to those documentary part 1, 2, and 3 there. So why did you decide to do these documentaries about the making of the song?
It was definitely, the more we were working on the song, the more we realized it was a complex thing that we were doing. So there was a lot of layers going on there. And the more the songwriting process was going on, the more we wanted to get a vibe of what the song was about. The song really is, the song about the war in Ukraine. It was really like originated by the events of Kiev. It really is about like the Battle of Kiev, really, that happened, February of last year. And there's a lot of things, for instance, we did not anticipate. We did not anticipate that the Ukrainians would strike back as powerfully and as fast as they did, which is splendid,
Yes.
When we wrote the song, we thought that this was going to last for a little while, and, those guys were in need, and we first wanted to send, some of the money for the fights, and now it's much more for, the rebuilding and the refugees that we have that in mind. So the more the song was being built, because it took us a while to build the song, the situation in Ukraine was changing too. And the song became a bit more symbolic about greater needs and greater forms of freedom. Skies and Grain was what became a symbol that could be applied to many conflicts and make many rights for freedom. And then came the layer of associating the landscape of Skies and Grain to our own experience as expats in the Midwest. So the song really has different layers of meaning like this. And what started really about a song about the war in Ukraine that was propelled by some of the early stages. And the song was really also propelled by what I thought was some sort of a delayed response from most countries, like it often happens, That happened. There was kind of a long silence before the first countries kind of put their foot down and said, this is not acceptable and we need to do something about this. There was a long silence. What should we do? Because obviously the situation is scary. Right.
What should we do with Russia being on the other side of that?
Yeah. So just like the song that we listened to last time, Song to the Fascist, I guess I wanted to kind of strike that while it was hot, because I think it's not very useful to do this once the thing is done.
Right.
But yeah, it was very interesting to see how the situation over there was progressing as the song was being written. So it kind of changed a few times that it was being written,
Yeah.
And then, in the end, it ended up being this thing. As you can see, if you go and check the documentaries, this thing that is also reminiscent of our experience here, and staying also in Northfield, the idea of factions, the idea there's an Olaf side, there's a Carlton side, there's a Townley side, there's a, and it's kind of, there's a lot of things going on in this song.
And that's very obvious when you listen to it, and not only in the lyrics, but also in your choices musically. And the skies and grain concept, I believe, came from the Ukraine flag.
Yes. Yeah. This is something, I forgot what it was. I think it was, I believe, if I'm correct, that it was some of an old quote from Toni Morrison.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Love Toni Morrison.
Yeah. And that she kind of defined the Ukrainian flag this way a while ago. Don't quote me for sure, though, but I think this is where I get it. I get the idea from.
And your idea of it changing and things in the Ukraine or in Ukraine changing as you were building this song, it's still going on, though, right? I mean, I just looked up the news today, and
exactly,
their bombings are still going on. People are still getting killed. Homes are still being destroyed.
Exactly.
Every week, every day, and we forget.
Yes.
We just go on with our life because it's not right in our face, because the news has moved on as well. And so it's kind of, I don't know, bittersweet, maybe. I don't know if that's not quite the word, that you're just coming out with this now, because it's a reminder to all of us to open your eyes. We all have to keep our eyes open to all of this stuff, because it's so easy to to bury our heads.
Yeah. So that's what I kind of hammer in a chorus. You've noticed that the voice is changing tones very clearly. The voice is sweet in the verses. The voice is very aggressive in the chorus, and this is an aggressiveness that aims at opening people's eyes. That the first line is, now the bombs, they keep falling, and this is exactly what's happening, as you say, today.
Right.
The bombs, they still keep falling right now, but we have, somehow it seems like we have moved on because there's other things to talk about, but this is still of importance. This is still going on, and there's also many other conflicts in the world that are not being discussed enough.
Exactly.
And this is, I also felt that Ukraine has always been, as a European, through many conflicts, I've always pictured Ukraine as being right here at the border between the East and the West, caught between, two worlds, and conflicts and all over the place, all over the time. And this is what I'm saying also in the song when I say, caught between the feast of the beast to the East and the faked unrest of the pests to the West.
Love those lines. I have that written down, highlighted. Wow. What a great couple lines, and so evocative.
It summarizes the situation. There's always been trouble from the East going on there, and on the West side there's always been this sort of there's condemnation, but in my taste there's not enough action, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. Well, complacency.
Yeah.
Right? And our own lives moving ahead, and like you said, it's not just Ukraine. It's all over the world that we need to pay more attention to the issues of the problems and try to help out as much as we can when this country is so wealthy. And
it is what I'm doing. It's not I'm taking sides. I think I'm making this clear also in the documentary. We can talk about the Russians, but what I've seen a lot in the news is a bunch of kids. Right, there's a lot of Russian soldiers for sure, but there's a bunch of kids who have been brainwashed to and just sent there.
Right.
There's a difference between sending Russians and sending like an 18-year-old that has been lied to.
Right. Well, war in general. Right?
Yes, exactly.
Our brainwashing our children used to be just our young men, but brainwashing basically our kids to go and get themselves killed for the powers that be. It's just crazy that we do this as human beings. It really is.
So as an artist, the only thing I can do is basically to raise awareness, try to be as tolerant as possible, and just try to help the victims. Always take the victim sides.
Exactly. And they're victims on both sides. And almost always. Well, always, I guess you'd have to say. You touched a little bit on the choices that you made and how you're singing the song. So there's very distinctive differences. And oh my gosh, what you can do with your voice. It is so incredibly versatile, and your range is incredible.
Thank you.
And you go from this Disturbed, I guess, kind of voice. Disturbed, the band. Disturbed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, get you. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
This really... deep, gravelly, rich sound to very melodic, a little bit more ethereal, maybe, sounds. And so tell me how you made those decisions. I mean, you touched on it a little bit, but let's dive into that a little deeper.
Well, I'm definitely, I was born in the early 80s, so the 90s were definitely an important sound for me, right? Those are elements you find in grunge all over the place.
Yeah,
those
right.
are elements you find in the heavy metal of that period too. You know, from the soft to the harsh. That was the recipe for like bands say like Alice in Chains, right? It's always been that bands that could go, you know, that could go like an MTV Unplugged, or that can go so, you know, very very electric, and in the range of voice to be from sweet and Disturbed, but not the band Disturbed,
Right.
because there was what the grunge was about, right? Let's talk about all fragilities. Let's talk about the what's happening in Seattle and all the drugs happening there. Let's talk about depression. Let's talk about the
Oppression.
Let's talk about, you know, those were young males that were talking openly about their suffering, which was, you know, the guys like Chris Cornell, the guys like obviously Kurt Cobain,
Right.
And all those songs. Nirvana is a great example of that sound too, right? Nirvana
Right.
can be super sweet and super. And, you know, and plus I like grunge because grunge itself has, you know, past the scene it's been associated to, which is Seattle. Every grunge band that I can think of really does not sound the same. Nirvana,
Nice.
I think, approached punk in a way that Pearl Jam did not. Pearl Jam stayed a bit more classic rock and folk in many ways.
Right. Right.
Alice in Chains really flirted with metal. And like the others, then comes Screaming Trees, then comes all those, you know, all those other flavors of what was dubbed grunge again by the press, but really it was just what they had in common was let's talk about those topics, you know, fragility of masculinities, you know, drugs, depression, suicidal tendencies, stuff that were taboo and that needed to be
Right.
addressed.
Right. And
Mental health, right? And,
right. And I think that helped toward, not that we're open enough about it, but
Yeah.
certainly way more. And the younger generation is incredibly more open to talking about
Oh,
these
yeah.
things. It's not a shameful thing to talk about. Thank God. Because if you hide it, doesn't mean it goes away.
No,
That's
no.
for sure.
I mean, it sure
In fact,
helped me
makes it
for
worse.
sure. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh,
Nice.
it helped me, you know, through going through a lot of what I've been going through myself. But yeah, so yeah, I guess this is where where this is coming from. That kind of sweetness that turns into harshness. It's definitely my love of grunge going on there.
Nice. You know, it's interesting when you talk about genre. And when I was growing up, there was a handful of genre. I don't know, maybe 20. I'm just throwing out a word. And now, I mean, kind of maybe this was influenced by the grunge thing that you would have so many different sounds with under one genre. That now there's like this genre chart. Okay, that's hard to say. Genre chart online. Hundreds and hundreds.
I
I mean,
know.
every genre has subcategories, and within those subcategories, there's subcategories.
I know.
And so it's just like exploding of what you can do. There's
Yeah,
no rules.
I know.
There are no rules.
I used to be a metalhead. I mean, I'm still a metalhead of sorts. It's just you know, metal is, when you're into metal, you have to be super niche, right? You cannot listen to anything else past
better
metal. If you do that, you know, you're just like a betrayer or something, you know. So that's what I say when I say, oh, thank God I expanded my horizons since then, you know. But even the world of metal, remember, was ridiculous. There's the number of types of metal that can be dubbed out there, you know.
Right.
You know,
Right.
groove metal, harsh metal, speed metal, symphonic metal.
See, that's what I'm talking about. It's just there are no rules. You can, and if it doesn't exist, you can just create your
Yeah.
own, right?
And at some point, you gather stuff together, and you have this elongated, hyphenated, almost German, you know, like name that's ridiculous. Like, okay, let's just like, I guess if we want to glue this back together, maybe it's time we consider that genres, you know, are not that impermeable, you know.
Right. Exactly. And also kind of becomes a circle, because I bet you there's exactly the same kind of music with all sorts of different words hyphenated over here that matches exactly over here. And so it converges at some point in time.
Oh, yeah.
So I want to get to playing Skies and Grain. I just want you to tell us a little bit, or describe what your decisions and how you came up with the sound in the beginning, the siren.
Well, the great thing that working with Ginty is that Ginty really is into sampling sounds that bring a symbolic touch to the songs. We've been doing that a lot with Born of the Same. I don't know if you remember, but there was the seagull. We sampled the rain. We sampled the KV sounds, you know, elements, a door, a squeaky door that was like closing on your face, maybe behind the main protagonist at the beginning of the song, so that there's an openness towards nature. So he likes to do that a lot, which is kind of the type of work you could expect of someone, say, working in movies or in series, like doing this sort of sound game as well. So we wanted to do that in the song. We wanted to incorporate sounds that were reminiscent of a war, of war. So we use like the crackling and hissing of old radios,
right?
Those kind of distorted sounds where you can almost hear wailings, you know what I mean, in this distorted radio thing. So there was that. There was a bunch of other sounds that are reminiscent of war that we've been using, and we definitely wanted to use a siren as the intro, because when we were mixing the song, it was right after the beginning of the Battle of Kiev. So, and then we sat down. Was like, you know what? Let's listen to the actual siren. And luckily enough for us, the song was in D, and the siren that blasted over Kiev was actually in D too.
Wow.
Which is not usually the case. Most of the sirens you recognize in movies and stuff, and you can hear when people want to sample a siren, usually are sirens from World War II. A lot of them are British sirens, announcing, that the Luftwaffe is coming to to Britain to do the next bombing. But this siren is not tuned differently. It's tuned differently, so it's in D, so it worked perfectly.
Right.
So we started with the siren. I guess we were a bit pirate there. We did not submit an application to the government of Ukraine to do this, so we kind of decided to go rogue. And we thought, what's the worst that can happen, that they're going to tell us you should not do this, as we're trying to, bring money and raise funds for the refugees.
Right.
It's not making sense.
They have more important things.
So I can testify that we've not been in trouble since then.
Thank goodness.
Plus, it's not as if we like, U2 or Metallica. I think we're pretty safe here in Northfield.
Exactly.
As I like to say, we're not Bono, we're not bonobos as well. It's just somewhere in between.
Somewhere between a Bono. Bono and a bonobo.
And a bonobo, right. So we did this and it worked perfect. So the music starts with the sampling of the actual siren that blasted over Kiev. And then Ginty's riff kind of gently mingles in, and this is how the song begins. So it makes it very, very powerful there.
And somehow, I don't know if you did this on purpose or this just happened. You're so purposeful, I bet you did. When the guitar part starts, it sounds like a plane coming into drop. Yeah.
That's an effect that Ginty used. What he did, I think, is he actually recorded a chord, and then he cut the beginning and the end of this chord, and then it's basically a fade in.
Wow.
That makes this thing, right? So it starts at 0 volume, and then you push the volume up slightly, and then you get this kind of airplane effect. Yeah. That's
great. Well, let's take a listen to Greenvale Manitou's song, Skies and Grain.
Living feathers in the air. waves of grain, a purple mountain majesties above the enameled plain.
This is Pauline Jennings, and you're listening to Musician Talk. You just heard Skies and Grain, a powerful song about the war in Ukraine, written by my guest today, Cedric Briand, and his writing partner, Jinty Dutta, performed by his brainchild, the band called Greenvale Manitou. Greenvale Manitou has a CD release party and gig at the Grand in Northfield on this Thursday, the 8th, at 7 o'clock. Your song crafting is so sophisticated. There are so many well-crafted elements in there that when particularly when you listen to your documentary and you hear how it's done, you realize the incredible thoughtfulness that you put into every aspect of your music. And I thank you for sharing that. That's incredible. One thing I noticed, it seems like and correct me if I'm wrong, that the guitar is mixed as loudly as the voice, and yet there's space for both. They're not crowding each other out, but they feel like they're have equal importance in the song. And so it's really that guitar just, as well as your voice, drives it forward and creates a sense of urgency
for sure
in the song.
It's been the case in the three songs we've been doing with Jinty. You know, guitar is his main voice. Mm-hmm. Like he really expresses his emotions with this. I've loved working with Jinty for that. He's not this guitarist that's all about demonstration and shredding and all that stuff.
Right.
You know, he really spends the time to sit down and work on the emotional of his solos too. Skies and Grain is a good example. So if you've listened to the beginning of this solo, it starts with this kind of like high-pitched note, which I think he wanted to emulate some sort of a wail or a cry. Yeah. So, like even the way he crafts his solos are about the storytelling very much and less about the musicology.
Right.
And that makes for, as long as I'm concerned, a fantastic person to work with when it comes to, because I'm a songwriter, I like to spend time on words, the poetic side of things. He expresses his poetry behind an electric guitar and with cymbals and sounds more than just music notes,
Yes. Oh, totally. And you can totally hear that. And I so appreciate that. The whole shredding thing, the showing off your technical chops during a solo gets pretty old pretty fast. If you don't have some kind of melody or some kind of telling a story through that, it's like I've heard it. I've heard that now. And many guitarists can do that, but when you express your own voice, then you're the only one that can do that. And so
I know his solo is like this. It starts with a cry and a wail, and it moves on to something a bit sweet, sensitivity of families on the road, you know, things like that. And so in the 3 songs, it's been like this. Like, you're right, the guitar and the voice are equally kind of mixed and mastered, because those are both of our voices, basically.
Nice. And people can hear this performed live at the Grand on Thursday at 7 o'clock at your EP release of these 3 songs that you have put onto a CD. People can get there. Talk me through that night. What should people expect when they get there?
It's going to be, so Ginty and I are going to play on the backtrack. So we have remixed those songs without vocals and with less guitar, so we can play on them.
Got it.
So that's the backtrack we're going to use. We're going to play live on that. So it's going to be, you know, vocal performance and guitar performance. For the next song we're going to listen today, Queen of All the Animals, actually he's keeping the guitars and he's going to play some more jazzy stuff on top. So it's going to be a bit different and funky.
Nice.
You know, a bit gypsy jazz, things like that. It's going to be fun. And yeah, for the rest, I'm going to have songs of my own that I've not recorded yet. There might be surprises for the next recording.
Nice. That
I'm going to play acoustic. I'm going to introduce also the new crowd, the next people I'm working with.
And who's that?
That would be,
or is it a surprise for the night?
Well, you know, I can most definitely give you their full name. This is Nolan Perry Arnold and Berit Johanne Bringsjord. It's mainly Nolan. You know, I've been playing with Nolan quite a bit, and he's very versatile. He's playing guitar, he's playing bass, he's playing violin, he's playing accordion. Wow. He's going to play accordion on 2 songs. So there's 2 songs I'm going to play acoustic, and he's there with the accordion. There's a bunch of songs I'm playing acoustic and voice, and he's there with an acoustic guitar too. So there's going to be an acoustic set. There's going to be a electronic set with Ginty, and we're going to use loopers too. There's going to be definitely a percussive set. I'm bringing a lot of African percussion. Cool. I'm bringing a lot of those big Norse drums too, and I have, I think, 2 or 3 songs that are going to be very tribal this way. They're going to be full percussion forward, and that's trying to grab the sense of primitive feeling that we all share in common. So that's part of the show. I'm very excited about this. Okay,
everybody, if you're listening out there, you got to go to this gig. It sounds wonderful. You mentioned loopers. What does that mean?
I'm going to use looping pedals. So I'm going to, because we don't have a full band. So there's a song I've been working with, for instance, with Nolan and Berit. Berit is playing the violin, and Nolan is going to be behind an acoustic guitar. So what I'm doing for this song is I'm starting with the djembe, and then I'm looping the djembe live. So I'm playing this djembe riff and I'm recording it live, and then I stop the recording and it's playing in loops.
Got it. And then I'm over those loops.
And then I'm grabbing a bass and I'm playing the bass on top of this loop, which I'm looping again. And then the song progresses this way. And so I'm also going to have a song with Ginty where we're going to do this as well. I'm going to loop a cajon, and then I'm going to have the freedom to kind of play a bit around this. And it's going to be fun. Yeah.
And that's one way you could get away with, well, if you have the talent to play those different things, and also to get away with having less people. And I don't know if this is not evident in what we were talking about. That song that you just heard and the one coming up is just 2 people. It's you and Ginty.
It's me and Ginty. Everything on the EP is me and Ginty. He's been taking care mainly of the guitars, the basses. We've been crafting the songs together. And I guess I had an eye on the percussion and percussive aspect of things much more. It was definitely the singing melody and, you know, the lyrics. And
yes.
But we really shared the whole compositional thing.
Awesome.
That where, you know, he needs to be celebrated is the mixing skills and the mastering skills. It's all him. And recording skills too. You know, I recorded a lot in my studio, but I recorded a lot at his studio. But really the quality of the sound, it's all him. He's been mixing it and he's been mastering it on his own.
What a talent. And we're going to introduce the next song. And we're going to talk more about this recording and the choices that you make when you're recording. But the next song is called Queen of All the Animals, about your daughter.
Yeah.
And other than the fact that it's about your daughter, what inspired you to write this specific song about her?
I always wanted to write a song about my daughter, so it was kind of long overdue. And I have a tendency to write, songs that are a bit social political. I have a tendency to write songs that can be sometimes a bit about a bit more the grunge world, a bit sad songs and things. And so I don't very often write happy songs. I was like, okay, mate, you need to do something about this. And so I thought, okay, let's find something sweet to write about. It's got to be, of course, and it was my daughter. So first it was this, like, okay, you need a song that's a bit more happy. You don't have many of those. Let's get started with a list of some of those, right? So It was really this. And then I had read, because I didn't know where to start, what aspect of my daughter I wanted to highlight. And she's always been playing with animals, for sure. Like fluffies is her thing. Definitely it's a song, obviously, where I recognize part of myself in my daughter, right? This sort of wilderness, this sort of love of the woods, love of the wild. And yeah, I sort of played with this idea from this picture. So I was trying to figure out where to start, and then I came across an interesting idea. I think it was one of the classes that I'm taking on songwriting, that if you have the blank page kind of moments, what you could do is actually take a picture or look at a painting and start writing around the observation that you have there, and then the inspiration comes.
Yes. And
so I remembered that picture. That picture you can see on the website, and you can see if you go to every platform, that's the picture of the single you see there, that I had to retouch and make it more like a painting. But that picture, it was a picture that I took in her bedroom, where she was sitting like some sort of a queen, surrounded by the entirety of her fluffies. And on the right, there is the sun that comes through the window. And I remember at the time, because we were listening to the animals, specifically, I was playing the record, was playing in the back, that I dubbed that picture, all of the animals in a house of the rising sun, because the sun was literally rising on the right. It was the morning, and here she stands, on that edge of the bed, and all this helped create the first few lyrics. So she's there. She's like this little bird who's about to fly off from the tree, and she really is this loving individual who cares for each and every one animal.
She knows they're all there, which ones are which, what their name is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's what I want to do in this song. I guess the lyrical content is very much about this, that she cares about the critters and the tigers alike, and that she has this also innocence. And I guess, what I wanted to express also in the chorus, when I say that while my manly mojo is fading away, is I'm looking at this ball of energy, and I'm feeling, I'm not that old, but I'm starting to be in my 40s. I'm definitely feeling not in my 20s anymore.
Right.
And here is this young lady full of verve and power and passion, and I'm just amazed by her energy and by her curiosity, and it's also a gaze that I have about myself when I'm writing. There's the innocence, there's the purity, there's the energy, and I really wanted to write a song that is about this. This young girl that's very powerful. It's a very empowering song for young ladies.
Yes.
She is queen. She's queen while daddy is fading away. She rules,
She's coming to power.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. I love the bedside wild empire. You can just imagine in her head the world she has created. It's not just those animals and everyone she knows, and everyone has a name. I'm sure that there is just a whole empire that she has created in her head, and how wonderful that is.
She likes to play daycare with this. So she's the lady at daycare, and so every animal comes to daycare, and she organizes activities, and stuff. It's funny.
I love this line too. Each time a creature disappears, it's born again inside her head. I love that. It's very evocative, and particularly today, because my son, I just found out my son has to put his his baby that he raised cat down, and so he has to recreate that and just I loved it because it gave me hope and it gave me strength to talk to him of that. Even when people and things disappear, we create them and recreate them in your head, and how wonderful and beautiful that is.
It's also something that I think, as a parent, needs to be celebrated about children. I'm not here to give advice. I'm not here, and I have my pluses and my minuses definitely when it comes to parenting, just like everybody else. But one of the things that I really insisted on doing with my kids very early on is to give them the space to be very evocative with their imagination, instead of placing them in places when they are too much control or too much contrite. I like guidance more than I like control when it comes to parenting. And I like just to be there, spend equal time with both of my children in my recording studio. I'm gonna have a song about my son too, eventually, and I'm sure this is gonna be about this: him just walking around back and forth in the studio, grabbing one instrument, shaking it, using a guitar, banging a bass, taking a shaker, using the shaker as a pick for the guitar.
I'm looking forward to that song.
It's very fun. So this is, I guess, also what I want to say here. When a creature disappears, born again inside a head, the world of imagination needs to be cherished when it comes to kids, and just let it grow, let it happen. Don't mess with this. This is what's going to make future great adults.
Exactly, and also to keep that fire and spark going on as we age, which gets more and more difficult, I think, unless you feed it.
Yeah.
We have to move on. We could talk about this forever, but I just want to say this: the riff that you started with in this song is so super cool. Okay, I totally imagined myself walking down the street with my earbuds in and just doing that cool jazz head bob. I mean, not jazz, but just that. Boom. I just love the groove. It's super chill. And the vocals are so fun. It's a sunny day song. We're going to listen to it. We'll see what kind of time we have after this to talk about some more things, but we definitely want to talk again about the gig and what else you have coming up and where people can find your information. That will be after the song. So let's go ahead and take a listen to Queen of All the Animals, sung and written by my guest today, Cedric Briand. Cedric.
Here we go.
Here, critters and tigers. She's like never dies. Bring a light cup and she'll make it a sigh. As she's standing over the edge, just making a pledge to stop fledging. Outside, a stupid species is caging, but my baby girl, she shows no signs of aging. She's got all my memories stored away. But this ain't how the story goes. One my man mojo's fading away. Just queen of all the animals. Yeah, yeah. Rack-a-tap-a-tap-bow. Rack-a-tack-a-tap-bow. Drops a silent tear each time she gets a violent threat. Each time a creature disappears, it's born again inside her head. And when the skies are getting clear, she drags the thunder to her hand, so that the cowards cower in fear from what they cannot understand. She's got all that bozos scurrying away, but they said how the story goes. One my man left mojo's fading away. She's not even 5 years old. Yeah, yeah. my memories stored away. As and how the story goes, while my manly motor's fading away, just clean up all the animals. Yeah, yeah. Rock-a-da-ka-da-da. Rock-a-da-ba-da-da-da.
This is Musician Talk, and I'm your host, Pauline Jennings.
Brendan, you're not fat.
My guest today is
Shirt.
Cedric Briand, and you just heard his original called Queen of All the Animals. He collaborated with Ginty again on this song. Okay, isn't that super chill? I love that.
It's a good example of lo-fi. We've been talking about this earlier.
Yes, right.
See, that's the vibe. It's super just like chill, as you say.
It is super chill, and yet fun. I mean, not so laid back that you want to sleep, right, Chad? It's still it gets you going. You want to you want to move. And what I love about this song, and I want to just touch on very briefly here, is the space that everything has. And I know that because what I've seen with your documentaries, that is something that you put value on and that you're really trying to do. Can you talk to us about that a little bit?
Yeah, so that's the thing. So it's a lo-fi song, but it's not a lo-fi song. Just pretty much what we've done with the other songs. Remember Born of the Same? We played with a lot of things going on there. There was dream pop, there was hip hop, there was dream rock, there was different flavors going on. There's a djembe going on. So it's the same with Skies and Grain. It's hard rock, it's metal, but there's a bunch of other sweetnesses going on too. So here too, we really wanted to do a lo-fi song, but not just lo-fi, because a real example of lo-fi would have been less filled and full, as you just said, like this. So I wanted to sing with a voice that was a bit more hip and less chill. Let's do, let's just chill and because lo-fi can I don't know if you're aware of, like for instance, trip hop bands like Massive Attack or Portishead, and this is more like more cold. And this song is definitely not cold. As you said, it's more like warm. A sunny day.
Yes, it is.
So yeah, there's elements of other genres on this song. Ginty's guitar is definitely gypsy jazz, and the voice is definitely a bit more soul and R&B. Yeah. So it
little
brings
pop in there too.
Exactly. Yeah. So then that's how you get, I guess, the chance to feel all the aspects of the song is when you start to intersect genres like this to makes it easy.
Yeah. And on the flip side of that is having a space for everything, so it doesn't get overcrowded, which like Skies and Grain, you could easily be. There's so much going on there, but you guys found, and this may be Ginty's brilliance, found a space for everything.
Yeah. He was very good for this. Like, we can say that he's definitely the one who's the mastermind behind finding the right place for things. Yeah.
That is such a talent. All right, we need to wrap up here. And so I want you to tell us about your upcoming shows. But before you do, I'm going to talk about one here. And that is a concert in August 19th. It's a Saturday night at 7:30. And it's part of the 411 concert series that is back with a bang from the Northfield Arts Guild. It's a series that starts June 17th with Simon Garfunkel Tribute, which is a group that I'm part of, and as well as my husband, who you've heard me talk about quite a bit, as well as Craig Wasner, which I don't know, maybe 75% of my guests have talked about quite a bit, and Barb Piper, who can sing anything, and Mike Legvold on bass, who a lot of you I'm sure know. Our gig is on the 17th. Please get tickets. And Cedric is playing August 19th as the closer for the summer series. We also have a concert in July with Pat Donahue and Randy Sabine. All right, that was my pitch. So go ahead and tell us about your other shows.
Well, thank you for this show. First of all, I think it's going to be great.
I think it's going to be great.
I think those are two big headlines of this summer. The Grand. I've always wanted to play at the Grand because it's such a cool place. It's a tough place to play at because it's an open space.
The sound, it's hard to get the sound right, particularly for bigger groups.
But I'm absolutely excited to have like big vocal exhilarating moment going on there and see how it
Yes.
resounds, and also those percussions that I'm going to bring. I'm craving just for that sound, how it's going to sound in there.
Yes.
Those big African drums. And I'm also excited, of course, at the Arts Guild Theatre. It's such a very nice locale. I've been there to see you, and it was also like a pleasure. The other places I'm going to play so far, so I got a tentative date at Tenson Vault. That's July 20. That's also a Thursday. But I have the freedom to come the previous Thursday or the Thursday after. And I'm hesitant because I do have Saturday 22nd at Chapel Brewing in Dundas.
Okay.
I'm doing an acoustic set there outside by the river, very natural, very stuff.
Nice.
Less electric, more like acoustic and drums.
Yeah.
We don't want the neighbors to be too angry. And we want to fit the locale as sort of, they have this beautiful little outside space that's pretty chill.
Yes,
So I think it's going to be fun this way. That's going to be me because Ginty is one of the reasons why I'm moving also, and we're moving away. He's busy most Saturdays and
We're
most
playing with
Fridays.
Chad Johnson, right?
We're playing with Chad Johnson. They have something big going on, and I understand totally. So I also need to find new musicians so that I can also honor some of the dates. In Fridays and Saturdays, he'd probably be there for the Tenson Vault one because it's a Thursday.
Nice.
But I'm thinking because right now I have July 20 at Tenson Vault and 22nd at Chapel. Those 2 dates might be a bit too close. And if I push the Thursday back 1 week, then what we have is July 13th, which is 1 day before Bastille Day. So I'm thinking about something cool French going on.
Absolutely.
I could do
Absolument.
something Bastille Day infused at Tenson Vault.
Nice. Well, to find out all of this, and if they didn't have a pen to write it down, where can they go to find your schedule?
Every social media. So right now, Facebook, Greenvale Manitou, Instagram, Greenvale Manitou, YouTube, Greenvale Manitou. Those are the big ones. I am moving away from Twitter for personal and let's say preference reasons.
And you have a website, Greenvale Manitou.
GreenvaleManitou.com, where everything is there and links you to all of the places.
Nice.
And I guess the next big social media I'm going to start exploring this year is finally TikTok. I've been standing away from TikTok for a while, but I'm like, okay, let's see.
Oh, you'll be great on TikTok. I have no doubt. And with that, we have to wrap it up and say goodbye. I am so happy that I had a chance to catch up with you and people got to hear what you've been up to.
Yeah.
And people, please, if you're in town, go to the Grand on Thursday night to see Cedric play his music and Ginty and Greenvale Manitou.
Just one last word.
Yes.
I think I'm going to do some things to also raise money and awareness for Ukraine.
Great.
So those concerts I'm going to have to do mainly on my own. I was thinking about doing something with Hotspot here in town, reaching out to those guys, do some sort of interview, maybe watch the documentary and do a fundraiser then. It's tougher to do a fundraiser when you have to play with musicians and have to pay them too.
Right.
So I think I'm going to have a couple of dates where I'm going to be on my own in some locales around, and I want to reach out to the Cow, I want to reach out to Reunion upstairs and see if I can, bring some of my instruments and do an auction there and use the money for those causes. So this is how I'm going to raise money for those causes. And I know the websites and I know the places to send the money. They've been approved by some of my Ukrainian friends, so I know this is not some sort of a trap or whatever.
Right.
It's been double, triple checked.
You are a great man. I'll tell you. Thank you for being on today.
Yeah, thanks.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye. Thanks so very much to Cedric for all of his musical insight and for sharing his music with us today. Thanks always to Wendy Nordquist, and today I want to give a shout out to Mary Boyum. A little bird told me she is a regular listener, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate her and all of the listeners to Musician Talk on the One, KYMN. Have a terrific day.